Hey folks, how's it going? Azure Cosmos DB Live TV. I'm Mark Brown, and I've got with us this week Gahl Levy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I love the hold music before the show starts. It reminds me of that hold music from the 90s that people are jamming out to nowadays. So
Really? Is that's what it reminds you of?
yeah, it's like really popular now. I think on social media, it's like a jamming session now with that hold music from the 90s from the Cisco hold phones. So same thing here. I was like, oh, this is fun.
That's funny.
I'm
So it reminds you of old Cisco phone systems hold music
in a good way. In a good way.
in a good way. It gives you nostalgia for the 90s.
I was gonna record it and play it on my decks at some point.
I'll send you I'll send you the clip. So I think I paid like $5 for that thing like a couple of years ago. I was actually thinking about changing it because I've been listening to it for 2 years to begin and end the show, and I'm kind of like, well, I got to mix it up a little bit. Um,
Okay.
but I still own the rights to that, so I'll give you a copy of it. So for personal use, of course.
Yeah.
So. Well, hey, it's good to have you with us. We're going to talk about our new, or somewhat new. We've had it. Well, it's been in a private preview, I guess, for a while, and then this is our new Mongo vCore offering. And if I'm not mistaken, we announced this for a public preview at our Cosmos Conf just a few weeks ago, correct?
Right. Yeah. Really excited to talk about this. It's been out for a few weeks, and we're getting a lot of great feedback, and it's really exciting to see customers use it.
Well, that's cool. Let's get started here. I know you wanted to share a few slides, and then of course, got to have a live demo. So yeah, let's talk about this new vCore offering we've got.
Yeah. First, I have to show off the artwork that I made for Cosmos DB. That's not official or recognized by anyone, but it's just
Wait,
fun for me to
you
make.
made that?
Well, I think it was a combination of different icons I found from Microsoft sources, and I just
Oh, okay, because those look a lot like the little cartoon characters that I've seen floating around various Microsoft
exactly
properties and stuffed animals and whatnot. So
copy paste. Yeah.
at least you're on brand for whatever those things are.
Yeah. Well, just a brief overview of like Azure Cosmos DB from MongoDB. So it's basically using Azure Cosmos DB as if it were a MongoDB database. It's compatible with the Mongo apps, tooling, drivers, SDKs. It acts as if it's a MongoDB database. But now the new part is you get to choose your own architecture. You can choose the request unit where you pay for throughput and storage and consume storage, or now you can choose vCore, which acts a lot more like those IaaS services or running on-prem MongoDB. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So instead of actually getting a multi-tenant service where you're paying for throughput, you're actually getting the entire VM to yourself, and you can choose the VM SKU that works best for you, the cluster tier, and scale up or down or horizontally. And I'm just going to jump. I don't want this to sound like a sales pitch. I'm just going to jump into like the benefits, and then we can talk more and answer some questions as well. But
no, I think you should talk about this because people that do know the service are maybe familiar with our Mongo API. This is definitely a very new thing for us as a service. So definitely tell us. We should all learn about it as much as we can. So
yeah, so the main what it comes down to is workload by workload. You have the flexibility now to choose for each workload what kind of architecture works best, because the architecture, architecture works best for some workloads and some workloads it doesn't. So I'll cover that in a bit too.
okay.
It's a lot more flexibility than you used to have before, just with the RU option. So let's just jump into that because that might be a good way, and then we can talk about some of the benefits of vCore. So if you're just choosing, you're going to the portal, to that Azure portal, you're choosing which architecture is best for me when you go to Azure Cosmos DB for MongoDB. With vCore, vCore is really great because you have the entire machine to yourself, meaning for long-running, like complex aggregation pipeline queries, vCore will work better because you have the entire machine to yourself, and we can let you do whatever you want to do with it. Compared to request units, where if you need consistent performance that scales as much as you want, shorter running queries will work really, really well in the request unit architecture. It's a multi-tenant service where you have this giant pool of resources that just get assigned to you instantaneously. So for scaling, instantaneous scaling, request unit is the way to go. In terms of what you're getting, it's pretty simple. With vCore, you're getting dedicated instances meaning if you just shoot a ton of queries at it, performance will degrade over time because you actually have the whole machine to yourself. But with request units and auto scale enabled, you'll actually keep the same consistent query performance as you scale because it's a cloud native multi-tenant service based on throughput and consumed storage. And that takes me to the scaling aspect. If you really need to scale vertically because you don't want to shard, you don't want to choose a shard key, vertical scaling is important to you, you can do so with vCore. You can get larger and larger machines. And then at some point, if you need to horizontally scale, which many people don't, you can do that as well. With request units, because of the multi-tenant architecture and because of the need for consistent performance, you need to shard from early on. And when I say you need to shard, you don't actually have to do the sharding yourself. We do the sharding for you. You just have to choose a shard key that works well for your workload, and we'll do the sharding for you all automatically. And the last part, just to go to the last quadrant here, is the pricing. So with vCore, you're getting the whole machine. So you're just paying a flat consistent fee for that machine, as well as the disk that's attached to it. With throughput-based request units, you're paying for the capacity model, so either auto-scale, serverless, or just provision throughput. And depends on which one you choose. You pay for the RU usage and the consumed storage for that.
So I like this slide because it really kind of crystallizes the kind of both sides of the coin here. And what I see is you got the vCore, great for kind of that compatibility. Like if you've got, and you have it here, like running really large egg pipeline queries and big complex aggregations. It's not going to work on a resource governed multi-tenant service like Cosmos, where you're kind of time bound and also have throughput possible limitations on there as well. So that's great for what I'm seeing is like if you're running a lot of analytical type of stuff, that's the vCore might be a better choice for you. And then if you have something that truly needs to scale out and that high level of elasticity, you should go with our API model because it is true scale out. Granted, you do have to contend with our shard sizes, which are pretty small. But the trade-off there is you get that instant scalability, high elasticity, and then also these other pricing models. Like you can't do a serverless on a vCore because you own the whole VM. So and auto scale. So it's interesting that this puts it in a very stark relief, kind of the choices you make when you're VM bound versus when you are not.
Yeah, exactly. In the end, you want to basically give customers the choice and the flexibility to choose which model works best for them. There are trade-offs. These are a lot of the main trade-offs, but there'll be a path for each type of workload.
Yep.
And for example, one path is like for migration and modernization purposes, vCore will be very probably easier to go onto because it's kind of more one-to-one with what people are used to running on-prem. If as a user I'm running on machines on-prem or on IaaS, it'll be easier to go to vCore initially, depending on the workload, obviously, but that's usually the path. Requesting those, if you're building a new app, or if those features are important to you, elasticity, for example, requesting it, there's no way to beat that. Like it's 5 nines availability, instance scale. It's pretty cool.
And the compatibility thing is interesting because I see a lot of users they'll have like a database or 2 databases, but they'll have maybe 20, 30, 40 collections in there, and they use our RU based one and then want to use shared throughput, and there's some limitations with that. Like we only give you 25 collections for shared throughput within there, versus the vCore, it's basically just like you would expect, right? And that's a lot of Mongo, or not a lot, but a fair number of Mongo users have databases that are designed like that, where they've got lots and lots of different collections. Some are heavily used, some are not, but they kind of have the expectation of that shared cluster usage there. So, am I stealing your thunder here?
No, this is great. This is leading me right into another slide.
Okay.
Right, it's perfect. Yeah, and that flexibility you mentioned also goes to like how people are typically using MongoDB, or in many cases. Collections are a logical abstraction. They're not a specific resource like they are in RU that can scale separately from other collections. Yep. So in vCore, collections or just a logical abstraction, so you can have as many as you want. There's no limitation on that within a database. It's all on the same machine, so it doesn't really matter. And again, with the sharding aspect, you can vertically scale so much more in vCore, so you don't have to really worry about sharding in most workloads, as long as you don't go past the terabytes or you have really high IOPS requirements, which helps developers get started often. So it's a nice flexibility option for developers. But one thing I really wanted to highlight here is what's common between both of these services. So effortless integration is really important, because if I'm moving to the cloud or if I'm moving my database somewhere else, I want to be integrated with the Azure platform. I don't want to build and maintain these integrations and support them myself. And that's what's really important for us to do here on Azure Cosmos DB for MongoDB, because we understand people it's tough to do that yourself, and we want to do that for you.
Yeah. So what kind of integration will you have for the Mongo vCore when you come out here at GA?
So we're just in public preview now, but like
Azure
CLI, the basics, like Azure Monitor, Azure CLI. We have a lot more in store there. So for example, like the RU base already has multiple integrations, around RBAC, many, around app service. There's many more that are coming, but we recognize this is really important, and you don't want to have to use different tools to manage users, for example, or manage monitoring for every single service that you have. So having common tooling makes things a lot simpler.
I think, and your guys, the North Star for you is, look at, you want the best overall Azure integration experience through this first-party service for Mongo users, right? So that's, I think the key is, hey, I'm migrating my stuff over to Azure. I want to be able to access all of these other services and capabilities and features throughout my ecosystem or my subscription within Azure. So it seems like that would be at least looks to me like that's where you're heading with this, or why you would want to do this, right? So
exactly, yeah. And another point to touch on here is it's a fast solution that just works. And what I mean from a TCO perspective, as you know, we don't have any MongoDB code. We don't use any MongoDB code. This is built on Azure Cosmos DB backend infrastructure, but both services. And what this means is that we're able to actually achieve some performance gains, and that translates to cost savings, which we just pass on to the users. So we, as a service for vCore MongoDB, we have to use fewer replicas than other services out there, meaning that we can actually achieve similar performance with less replicas and just pass the savings on to customers. So you'll see that, if you compare head to head, we're actually cheaper in those cases because of that.
Right, and then the number of replicas are for increased durability. Is that the idea?
It depends. There's replicas for increased durability, and there's also replicas for improving your throughput.
On the reads.
You both with fewer machines, and we're just talking about like literally VMs here that we're running and managing and putting software on behalf of users, and it's like a very just like clear way of just saving money. Use less machines for similar performance on same apps.
Right.
Save money. So
yeah.
That worked out really nicely for us too. And I can so we have customer spotlights from customers that have been using us for a while already, and we're really grateful for that. But this is another way of picturing it. So with this architecture, instead of the typical 3 replicas you need, you only need 2 for high availability. In addition to that, we actually we're hearing our users saying that for dev and test workloads, they often have to run the same setup as they have in production. They want the same kind of performance and expectations. We realize that there's also room for cost savings there for customers, because they don't have to pay for resources they're not actually using. So that led us to offering a non-HA option, meaning, again, even fewer resources are used. Same performance, just you don't have to have any standby replicas around, meaning you get 50% off. So for like dev test workloads, non-critical workloads where it doesn't matter if there's downtime, non-HA is a great option because you just save a ton of money on that.
These are regional replicas?
By region, like within the region?
Outside of region, X region.
I'm not sure what you mean.
So for the HA option here, if I want to run HA, do I have a region pair that I run the secondary in?
Yeah, at this point in the preview, it's within the same region. We optimistically place the replicas across different availability zones.
Okay, so it's in either different. Okay, so a different zone, which is of course going to be a different fault and update domain, of course, as well. So okay, or maybe, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, and as you can see, like compared to paying for throughput and storage, this is just you're paying for a cluster tier. You have some kind of base storage. This can go up and down based on your needs. You can provision a larger disk if you want. So this can go up much higher into the terabytes. And then you have the RAM and the CPUs for this SKU for this cluster tier. Then you have the choices of options here for pricing. This is also available in the portal. It's also available on our pricing page. This is only a subset of them. We're introducing more over time. But the thing to keep in mind is if you're talking about vertical scaling, you can vertically scale between these without any downtime. It's done live for you automatically, managed by Azure. You don't have to worry about it. And you can always go up or down in terms of the SKU. And the storage needs to stay the same. So you can't go down in storage. You can only go up in storage.
I see.
And that's vertical scaling. There's also the option for doing horizontal scale, which with the amount of vertical scaling you can do in vCore, most people will never have to do horizontal scaling. But you can even shard the cluster and scale horizontally. So you can really scale a ton here as well. But RU based is a different kind of scaling, if that makes sense.
Question on the clusters. Do we have different VM series that are going to be part of this that are maybe optimized in different ways, like maybe some with SSD storage versus NAS, or some with high amounts of memory, just others that are optimized in different ways for people that may be running slightly different workloads with Mongo?
Yeah, so right now it's only one kind of VM tier, but this is certainly possible since we're just running VMs and we're running this with our software on it. So with feedback from users, customers, we can prioritize.
Add more SKUs, basically.
Yeah, these are VM SKUs that people use. So
got it. Okay. Yeah, this is cool. I like your pricing too.
Glad to hear that. I just wanted to also point out, so we have a quick start that's really easy, like to go if you're just interested in getting started. You can go to aka.ns/try Mongo vCore, and that takes you to the portal quick start, which is really easy because you just go in the portal, it shows you the steps, and you can configure a cluster, one node cluster, and launch that and just try it out. And I'd like to just show quickly. I have this in slides. I don't have to go to. Then I can just show how this works. So if you go into the Azure portal, you can create a new Azure Cosmos DB resource. You can select Azure Cosmos DB for MongoDB. And the new part here is now you have two choices. Before it was only request units. You'll see here in the comparison a lot of those same things I showed in the slide before, the previous slides, around the differences between the two architectures. So you'll select vCore, try vCore. And that takes you to the same cluster tiers I showed you. The arrows below point to some important things. So it's actually like the first thing here where it shows the cluster tier, we're actually blocking the storage per node. So you select what cluster tier you want, the node count, and then the storage per node. The HA option is the really important one. So if you're running production workloads and these are important to keep running, you don't want any downtime, HA is the option to select for production workloads. We definitely recommend it. So select that. And if you don't select that, you have to click. I understand that there's a risk of downtime if you don't have HA. And okay, yeah, I meant it. And then you click launch, and then it creates the cluster for you, and that gives you a connection string that you can connect to Mongo Shell, Robo 3T, like any of the Mongo tools you're used to using, or any of the drivers in the same way with a user and with a password.
Yeah, cool. All right, so easy to provision, get started in there, and just connect it up, put some data in there, and off you go, right? I mean, it's just Meant to work like Mongo, so no change basically. It's just a new connection string.
Yeah, similar story to RU, just a different architecture with different trade-offs if you compare the two.
Yep. Okay.
Now I can jump to the demo portion. If we have time. Yeah, I can jump
Yeah. Well, if I got time, Gahl, I'm here all for you, my friend. So.
Yeah. let me just do the screen switch here to get that to work.
Sure, I'll move us over to just us talking heads here while you go and do that. I'm really excited. This is really cool, and people should go and check it out. You need an Azure subscription, I guess, to go and do this, but the pricing there is pretty reasonable, just starting at a small scale. They can go and just play around with this thing, and if they need it for a short amount of time, they can just have that. So, all right, let's get you back in here. All right, so got you in the Mongo shell here, it looks like.
Yeah, so I have an orders collection here with some data in it. I already connected to Mongo shell with the connection string from a live Cosmos DB for MongoDB vCore cluster. And you can see I have a bunch of orders in this collection. It's the orders collection. I have a customer name. I have a status of the order, so fulfilled or unfulfilled. And then I have the amount that order costs. And I'm going to run some aggregation pipeline queries and just show kind of the basics of how it works. And the real story here is it works like Mongo, so the same as you would assume, but it's being powered by Cosmos DB. So here's an example of an aggregation pipeline query. And what this does is it filters the documents that are fulfilled, so only fulfilled orders. It takes those orders and groups them by customers and calculates the total amount and the count of the orders for each customer, and then sorts them by the total amount and limits them to the top 10 customers we're looking after. So if you run this, see how fast it runs very fast. I have a few thousand documents here. Not that many actually, but several thousand. It still runs very, very fast. And you can see that it works as expected, and we get a lot of data. So this isn't the most complex pipeline out there, but you can make them more complex. And as the data size grows, vCore will work really well with these kind of queries. That's what I'm trying to really hammer here.
Yeah.
And a few other ones we can take a look at.
Yeah.
If you're interested in what Mary's or David's shopping habits are.
Always curious. Where'd you get this data set?
Good question. So this data set actually just generated myself.
But using Bogus?
Yeah, the data is bogus. So
no, I meant using the Bogus library.
No, I just made it myself. So
oh, you did?
Yeah. So James and all those people are they're all me, I guess. It's not real data, but I just made them up. So.
Oh, okay. There's libraries that create all this stuff for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to create data nowadays. It's not, you can use real data, but it's also.
In fact, you could probably get ChatGPT to create a data set for you.
Exactly. I was like, should I start talking about ChatGPT right now? I was like, I could talk about that for an hour, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Come back, we'll do another episode.
Yeah. So what does this one do? Okay, so it takes it groups the customer, the order status, and sums it up. So you can see David has a lot of fulfilled orders, also a good amount of unfulfilled orders. I don't know how realistic this is because that's like a lot of unfulfilled orders, so maybe it should be a bit less. This shows you that I made a data set myself. But yeah, this basically does that. Aggregation goes over, I think it's all the rows in this case. So yeah, definitely. If you're going over a ton of data within your collection, vCore is going to work really well. With RU, with a multi-tenant service, you want to do shorter queries and really limit the number of documents you're fetching and analyzing. This applies to databases in general, but especially with vCore, you'll do a bit better if you're scanning a lot more documents.
Mm-hmm.
And we have one more query we can take a look at. This one is even more complex. This one takes basically takes the fulfillment rate for the orders. So you're aggregating and getting the fulfilled orders and checking the condition. And then you're calculating the percentage and you get the fulfillment rate.
Sorry.
Pretty simple. Mark's like,
I don't know. Yeah, sorry. I clicked the wrong button. It's just me now for everybody. Sorry, Gahl. No, I'm just kidding. Here we go.
Get a more exciting data set, maybe like, I don't know, or whole tones or something. But yeah, overall, I'm really excited about this product, really excited to get people's feedback, lots of public preview. We're really serious about this product and really excited to, see what folks think about it. And yeah.
How do they give you feedback? Is there and I should have asked you this before the show. Is there an email or something? Or I can kind of quickly put it up in a banner here if you've got it. Meanwhile, I can show I got the get starting here. I can show folks.
Let me, I can do this. I can look up a link for a form that people can submit feedback for.
Tell you what, why don't you just add it as a comment on our YouTube channel?
Yeah.
And then folks after the show can go and take a look.
Yeah, that'd be a great way.
Show, and then I can go look at the comment on there. So if you want, I can put that up there if you want.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm happy to connect directly with anyone, hear your feedback, and we can always work about prioritizing certain features that are important to you in your use case. So this is
cool. Put the docs up here too if people want to take a look. So it's aka/Mongo vCore. And then, of course, the getting started here, it's try Mongo vCore on there as well. And we'll get a link up there for you later if you want to leave feedback for Gahl and the team here. Yeah, this is great. I'm really excited about this. This is really something new for us. I mean, we do have vCore based offerings. I mean, we had our Cassandra MI, I guess, prior to this, and then of course with Cosmos DB for Postgres, that's of course also a vCore based offering. So we're kind of expanding our architecture footprint, if you will, in terms of how we provide database services, managed database services for customers. And I think this is a really great thing for us to be doing because, like you said, that it matches kind of the usage, if you will, for a lot of existing Mongo users. And there's a lot of workloads that want to come to Azure. So this is an option for them, is to go and use a first-party service to go and do that and get all the great integration and stuff that they've come to expect. So fantastic. Anything else?
No, that's it. Simple enough. Please try it out. Give us your feedback, and it's gonna be great. So
all right. We're gonna have you back on at some point. I guess I'll bet there's stuff going on with our Mongo API as well, right? So
yeah.
Okay.
With RU based as well as vCore based. So we have these two products now, and they're both evolving. So it's really exciting to see them continue to do so.
Well, that's cool. This is great, Gahl. So thanks for showing us, and thank you folks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed what you saw today. Hey folks, that's it for us this week. Please join us every month for our Cosmos DB user group. Join us on our meetup page, meet other people in the community, and then join us every month. We'll have someone new from the community talking about how they're using Cosmos in new and exciting ways. I don't know what episode this is. I think we're on 78. We're almost getting to the hundreds. Probably be there by end of year, maybe. Come check us out. Lots of episodes for you to go and binge watch with a bucket of popcorn on your couch over a long weekend. You can do all that stuff. So that's it for us this week, folks. Let me see if I can work the controls here without bogarting out Gahl here, just showing my own self with nobody else on there. So, but Gahl, thank you very much for being on. Great having you, and definitely look forward to having you on again soon. Talk about this and all of our other Mongo offerings.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everyone. I'll call dibs on that 100th show as well, just for the future.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll let Jay know. So that'd be great. Well, it's be our anniversary show, big 100. So right on. Couldn't have anybody better. Thank you, folks. Good seeing you this week. We'll see you all.
Bye.